What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast. It's time to talk about AEW Double or Nothing 2021 coming up this weekend, this Sunday night. We're going to give you a full breakdown of the card as currently scheduled in the afternoon on Tuesday, the 25th of May. We're going to give our predictions for everything. We're going to talk about what we're excited for, what we're not so hyped about, all the usual good stuff that we do here for the Pay-Per-Viewpoint prediction side of things. And we are the usual hosts. I am Tony Mango. I've got with me Callum Wiggins.
And here you will see the lesser spotted creature, a wrestling pay-per-view that Callum Wiggins actually cares about.
And Robert DeFelice.
We're entering our third year of covering more than one promotion on Smark Moment, so that's exciting.
If you count the years where there was some TNA talk, not much of it, but you know, it was a thing for
2008, didn't they?
Yeah, I God knows when we did that RIP TNA thing. It was many years ago at this point, and they're still around. Well, technically, I mean, kind of. I don't know. They don't even know if they're TNA or not. But what I know that you should do is you should hit that subscribe button if you haven't done that already. Ring that little notification bell as well. Hit the like button if you want to help us out here. And also, if you want to help us out on the tip jar side of things, hit the applause button if you're really enjoying this. Hit the join button as well. Join the membership side of things on YouTube. And to continue my online panhandling, according to Lars Sullivan, we will talk about the Patreon. Go to patreon.com/smarkoutmoment, and you can help us support this channel and this website in whatever ways that you feel so inclined to, because it's not a guarantee that you need to do that. It's just something that if you want to, that's the whole point. And, you know, $1 goes a long way. $5 and up gives you access to different other sorts of different tiers, including the Darkcast tier and the Pick a Poison tier, where you can request something that you specifically want. You can do the same things on fanboysanonymous.com, which is the site for geek culture topics and movie reviews and everything like that. So, you know, if you are interested in that, follow everything on Fanboys Anonymous. Check out some of the stuff we've done recently, like the Review to a Kill podcast. And, you know, just kind of start clicking around and you'll see plenty of different things, including the merchandise shops on TeePublic and Redbubble. So, AEW, Double or Nothing. We know 9 matches on the card, and there's a buy-in match that has not been announced yet, and it won't be announced until after we are done not only this podcast, but also the hot tags. Normally we would have that set up, but they're not doing AEW on Wednesday night this week. It's Friday at 10 o'clock, I believe, right?
Yeah, after SmackDown.
Yeah, so we're not going to know the buy-in match until after that, which means we'll have done all the podcast stuff. So I'm going to say judgment call here. Not even guessing what the buy-in is, because it's probably not going to be anything in particular. But if you guys have any suggestions what you think that the buy-in pretty much is going to be or has to be or anything, feel free to toss them out.
Thunder Rosa will be involved somehow. I don't know who she'd be fighting, but I think she'd be involved.
I was going to say it's probably going to be a women's match, because otherwise people are going to bitch there's only one women's match on the card. So I would do something related to having Thunder Rosa on one side and Serena Deeb on the other, and build it around an NWA championship match.
I'd be cool with that.
Yeah.
I'd say more of a tag team thing right now. But then you progress it towards, you probably should do something like Thunder Rosa versus Serena Deeb for the NWA championship. Because aren't they doing that thing? Again, I'm not watching the NWA, because if there's one show out there that's worse than Monday Night Raw, it is NWA Power.
Really?
And
I haven't watched it in months.
And apparently they're doing a match soon, which is Camille. I can't remember what her surname is.
Yeah, I think it's just Camille now.
Okay, so
she had a surname before?
She did, but it obviously not enough to keep it.
Yeah. So Camille versus Thunder Rosa.
And the greatest stipulation ever.
Yeah, and if Thunder Rosa loses that match, she's forced to just wrestle on NWA.
Because that's a punishment, folks. You're stuck here in the NWA.
Do they still have a good theme song for Power?
I don't
the fire.
Because it's behind a paywall now, Tony.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it's on Fight TV now.
Ah, well, yeah. Screw that then.
Yeah, so if that is the case, and well, we don't know, because if Thunder Rosa lose that match, she won't be appearing on AEW at all anymore. But it's but I assume that she wins that match, and then she'll go after the NWA Championship, because that's basically belongs to AEW now.
Yeah, and she'll get the match at like All Out or something.
Or probably I would think more so something like a Fighter Fest.
Yeah, I imagine she'll get a title shot. I think that you can do that sort of title shot on just an episode of Dynamite anyway. But I'm just in the assumption right now that it would be some kind of women's tag team match.
Well, now, in
Like,
fairness, NWA does apparently have When Our Shadows Fall on pay-per-view next Sunday. So maybe she gets that shot a little sooner.
yeah, maybe they could do a preparation for that, because I guess there's nothing stopping Serena D going over there and wrestling.
Oh, well, I guess we'll see on Friday night. No, I could complain and be like, "Oh, they announced that all the matches would be announced and all that." I did it already, so it is what it is. But we have 9 matches that are currently announced. They might change, one of them in particular, because somebody's injured, so maybe that's going to factor in some way. But I'll just pick a random one here. The Young Bucks against Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley. We got the AEW World Tag Team Championship on the line, and I'm pretty excited for the match in some ways. I don't think the match is going to be like the best match of the card or anything like that by any means, but I'm really glad that they're doing something with this setup. I think that it makes a lot of sense. You got Moxley and Kingston have been working together towards this whole friendship kind of partnership aspect that they built up for the past 2 months or so. And with the Young Bucks having quite a bit of tag teams that they can face, but not many of them that seem like they could actually beat the Young Bucks for the championship. Like, I wouldn't believe that Bear Country right now would win, or a Private Party. They're heels, so it wouldn't make sense to have them against the Young Bucks, even though AEW does heel more often, and they already claim, the whole like there are no heels and whatever. It's like, okay, so there's just pure villains like the Pinnacle, but there's no heels, right? But with this sort of setup, you got somebody who's a former world champion. So when the Young Bucks win, they can say that they've beaten a former world champion, but Kingston can take the pin. And it's a team that's 2 popular name guys. So it's a boost for the card. It's a match that could be pretty interesting because they wrestle a different style and everything too. And yeah, I'll give it a thumbs up on this one. I'm really happy that they're doing this match instead of just, I don't know, the Hybrid 2 against Young Bucks. You guys in the same boat?
Yeah, this is exciting. This is not one of the matches I would have expected Jon Moxley to be having 2 years later after he debuted, but he's got great chemistry with Kingston, both as an opponent and a partner. The Young Bucks are fun. They've never been in the ring with Moxley. So this will be a first, and the styles are so different that the contrast should be something that brings something new to the AEW tag division rather than flip, 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 kick. And not that I'm saying that that's bad in any way, that, listen, play to your strengths, but this is a different kind of match altogether, and I like it.
It's hard to really bet against the Young Bucks in this current run of form that they're in right now to not have the best match on the card. I don't think, like Tony says, I don't necessarily think that this will be the night for that because of just how stacked some of the other matches are. But this is going to be a great match. The Young Bucks have been killing it as tag team champions, definitely in ring wise at the very least. And Moxley and Kingston is a fun double act pairing there because they just are friends. Their relationship is very natural. It's very organic. Just the promos they cut, they're just like 2 guys in a buddy movie pretty much throughout the entire time, and that really works out well for both of them. I'm super excited again. I know this is more of a general thing, but there's going to be people in attendance. It's going to be a packed house, as they've said, and I'm really excited to people singing along to Wild Thing when they come out. Because say what you will about Tony Khan, but he picks good music for people, music that people can get engaged with. So
I like Tarzan Boy better than Wild Thing, though.
Oh yeah, well, everyone has their own preferences, but I appreciate the more general theme of just giving people entrance music that people get along with.
Yeah.
And people just engage with in the crowd. But I feel I'm actually a bit stuck on this one in terms of a prediction because I feel like you can go either way here. I think the safest bet is to go with the Young Bucks just because they're the more established tag team. But I also feel like AEW's in a situation now where the top, again, it depends on what route they're going with the tag team championships beyond this point. Because if they wanted to keep it on the Bucks, then to me, the most obvious babyface team to go after next would be Santana or Ortiz.
Right.
But then if you want to go Moxley and Kingston winning the title, then the obvious targets to go after them would be FTR. And they're both, very prominent tag teams that could easily get another title opportunity and have a good feud with these people. So I don't know for certain, but my gut is telling me to just stick with the Young Bucks for now. But I'm really looking forward to the match.
See, I'm flat out just going Young Bucks. I don't think that there's much of a chance Kingston and Moxley win, but Rob, are you kind of on the fence a little bit more than I am?
I'm more so thinking Young Bucks, but Callum brings up a great point about FTR. And if you want to get the belts back on them, Mox and Kingston is a great way to do that. And it would be a huge pop in front of a packed house for Moxley and Kingston to win the belts.
That's true.
So that is something they could consider, and I'd be all for it, actually. But I'm going to play it safe and go Bucks. There's nothing writing on this.
So, unfortunately, a tag team match that I am not looking forward to is Sting and Darby Allen against Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. And before anybody thinks this is why, it's not because of the talent involved not being good. That Scorpio Sky is a guy that I'm like, man, I hope that he wins the world title at some point. Darby Allen, he throws himself around. Of course, it's going to be fun to watch him do that. I mean, this guy, like, he's basically a crash test dummy. So, yeah, it's fun. Ethan Page, I've liked what I've seen so far from him. And Sting is, a bona fide, like, obvious Hall of Famer decades ago. But I don't feel like this matters. And it's very much to me the way that they were advertising it last week, where they were like, Sting's going to be there wrestling a match, and it's not a cinematic match. Neat, huh? And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know. I wish there was like something to this more, because it just feels like Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page, you could replace them with literally any other people, and it's exactly the same. It's just, well, Sting's going to wrestle. Isn't that fun? And I wish they would put a little more effort into it, other than just Sky and Page being like, hey, Sting, we're going to beat you. So I'm like, all right, well, hopefully it's not a scenario where they're doing a tag team match because they know that Sting can't do much. We don't know yet. So I'm feeling...
We don't know yet. Even regardless of the spinal stenosis that almost occurred 5 years ago, he is in his 60s.
Right.
He's better off in a tag match. But I disagree with you there. I'm very excited for this. It is special that Sting is wrestling and not a cinematic match. It's his first match in 5
6 years?
Oh, yeah, actually
I think
going
it's
towards
6.
6. Jeez. So there you go. That's really all you need. Darby and Paige have the good rivalry. Sky is so bitter about other talent being used that if he beats Sting, that's a huge step. There are ways you can go with this, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this as well. I feel like I don't feel like it's a case of a lack of effort. I think it's just due to the fact that it's a very simple story, which is Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page have been targeting Darby Allen because Scorpio Sky is still pissed about losing that TNT Championship match to Darby Allen. Ethan Page and Darby Allen, again, you wouldn't know this if you don't follow the independent circuit prior to this, but they had a really long-standing feud on the independent circuit for a while as well, which I only know vicariously. Obviously, AEW should probably do a better job of telling us that, but maybe they'll do that in like a future time. But yeah, that's a fault on their side of things. But I feel like all the components there just make it a good match, just in of itself. I mean, Darby Allin has been like he's just I don't say like he's a revelation or anything like that, but he is one of AEW's biggest stars now. He's a draw. He's constantly main evented. He just lost the TNT Championship. He's a huge deal, kind of in the eyes of just the company in general, their fan base. It's just like he feels like one of AEW's first AEW made stars, because he was just, I'm going to say floating around the independents, but he wasn't in any sort of prominent promotion before AEW, and so he can almost attest to be their first real success story at this point. Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page, I think it's really good for both of them to be in this match because, as we've alluded to, Sting is the draw of this, Sting being in his first match for 6 years. It means that you get to put two young up-and-coming heels that could have quite a high ceiling in the AEW landscape to get in that match with him. It gives them a, like, win or lose, it gives them a moment of saying, we were in the first match that Sting's had in the ring in however many years, and it feels like a big deal for them. So they feel, even if the match hasn't been built around as having a very convoluted, or I don't say convoluted, but more like with more cogs, a story with more cogs, or like with more like flesh on it, than just the idea of, oh, these guys have been beating out Darby Allen, Sting is going to help protect Darby Allen because he's his big, he's essentially like his face painted dad. So, Dad, these guys are beating me up, and Sting's just coming in with a bat and says, "Oh, okay, we'll deal with these, son." And
they're hooligans.
Yeah, they get,
remember?
Yeah, but they get a rub from just being in the same ring as Sting in this moment. So, and I think it could elevate both of them. I don't know where they're kind of heading at the moment, whether it is a tag team thing, whether they'll head towards a TV title opportunity. But then again, like, not everyone could be in these title pictures at the same time. So I kind of feel like they'll get this moment, it will put a spotlight on them, and then they'll transition on to Dark for a little while before they can figure out something else for them to do. So I think, logically, I'm going to go with Sting and Darby winning.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no chance in my mind that Page and Sky win.
There's a chance.
I'm 64. I'm 60-40 on it.
There's a chance, but I think the money is in Sting tapping out somebody just for the feel good for the audience.
So let's move. Oh, wait, go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, I think that's the feel good moment. So I think that's what they'll go with. But there is also something to be said about Scorpio Sky making Sting tap out.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then again, would you want to waste that on Sting's first match back? Or do you want to wait until it's like three or four matches in with Sting, and then he takes a big loss against someone, and that guy's like, okay, this guy's made. He made Sting tap out or something.
And would you want to have the crowd be like, oh, come on. Like, we came here to see Sting win a match against anybody, that kind of thing.
Yeah, not first night back. Maybe a couple of shows down the line. That'll be Sting's role.
Plus, I think, not to like play favorites or anything, but to kind of play favorites, I think you give that to somebody more like an MJF.
Oh yeah, you should give that to someone probably more prominent. But then again, as I said, though, I don't know what the ceiling is on Sky and Page yet. So if they see them at that level, or see them as potentially be able to reach that level, then they need to get big wins from somewhere.
So are we all going still?
Oh yeah,
even if there's some.
Yeah.
All right, Sting and Mini Sting. Miedo and Lance Archer go to clash for the TNT Championship. Again, I'm also not feeling super duper like, oh man, I've been waiting for this one. But that's just because they're like, oh hey, he just won the title, and Archer's like, well, me, kind of a thing. But on paper, ignoring the fact that there is no real like, deep storyline or anything to it, Miedo's starting to work his way back up to being an actual Bulgarian brute, top dog type of guy. Archer's one of the biggest guys on the roster. He's somebody who has been relatively kept protected. So it's going to mean quite a bit when Miedo beats Lance Archer and retains his title. Which is totally going to happen.
Well, first things first, Miedo has finally come back and come out to play, and I love this version of Miedo, where he's just excited about crushing people, and he thanked Jesus for the title, which I thought was funny given the context of like, yeah, just killed this face paint emo guy, but thank you, Jesus. Thank you for giving me the strength to win this belt. Lance Archer, everybody dies. Miro says, that's true, but you're going first. I like it. It's two big guys. They're going to slap meat. They know what's happening here. Just do it. It'll be a good match.
Yeah, this is why people should just have a bit more faith in AEW in terms of the storytelling aspect of it. Because even though they trust them to a degree, definitely more than the other company. But it's just a case of, okay, Miro wasn't working out, first of all, but you kind of needed that because then it makes you care about the Bulgarian Brute coming back even more.
I don't think that
It's
was
like,
a plan, though.
Whether it was or it wasn't, it still worked.
They got lucky, I think, with not. Well, I wouldn't say they got lucky.
I think the plan eventually was always to go in this direction. Maybe it didn't take the course that they were expecting all the way through, but surely the plan that they would have had is bring him in as a nice smiley guy, and then he snaps and becomes this crazy killer.
Maybe. I think maybe the phrase that I shouldn't use is they got lucky, but I think that they bet on the wrong horse, that would work out better and that could go longer. And it happened to be that he's got this stock behind him from being in WWE where people are like, we know that he's better than that, so we're going to give him another chance. Whereas somebody else, if they were brand new, people might not be willing to give him a second chance, you know?
Maybe. But I guess that's the advantage of signing someone with a legacy
name,
behind
yeah.
them. Yeah, that you can do that. But I'm excited for this match. These two are two like powerhouses going up against each other. I think Lance Archer is great. He's highly underrated in the ring. He does some really excellent stuff. Miro is, as Robbie said, looking like his more dominant self again, and both on the mic and in the ring, I think he's really hitting his stride right now. It'd be an incorrect decision for him to drop the championship at this point. I think having him beat Archer really establishes him as being like, okay, this is a force to be reckoned with now. This is a champion that could hold this title for a very long time. And yeah, I'm very excited to see how these two work together. I think it's going to be very different than a lot of the matches on the card because of the physicality of the two people involved.
So I'm going Miro.
Yeah, Miro.
Oh yeah, Miro.
Let's move over to Brian Cage against Hangman Adam Page. The Cage into Page, Page into Cage, whatever match. I just like saying it over and over. Just Page and Cage against each other, and eventually we're gonna get Christian Cage in the mix, and we could have a triple threat match. Cage and Page. Now it sounds like I'm saying Cajun. Cajun Page is the version of Brian Cage, who is from Louisiana. I hate to be the guy that does this again, but just to, to be honest, I'm not feeling this feud.
All right, let's call a spade right here. You don't watch AEW as closely as Calum and I do.
I don't, but the fact that NXT is not on the same night, I have been more recently. And in the same boat, it just doesn't make me go nuts to be like, oh, they had a match a couple weeks ago and now it's a rematch. Okay. I don't feel like it's actually anything to sink my teeth into beyond the fact that I like both these guys quite a bit. And it's two names on a card and whatever, but if we don't do the same sort of bending over for that when it comes to WWE, I don't want to do it for AEW. If WWE says, hey, it's Kevin Owens against, I don't know, who's another person that's just kind of, it would throw it in the mix there.
Sami Zayn, which they've done 26 times since their final match ever.
Well, I mean, if you go back to the Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn stuff from WrestleMania, the way that I was explaining my thoughts behind it was, yeah, I'm not really super duper into it, but, we know that these guys are good and I like them and whatever. And it's the same kind of thing with this. It's like, yeah, isn't going to be my storyline of the year for right now. I mean, maybe they change it, but when it's just like, it's Hangman versus the Machine, it's like, yeah, well, it could just be, anybody. It could be King Corbin versus Shinsuke Nakamura. It's two people that I like, and they had a match already, and now it's having another one. To me, this should be the Christian Cage match. It should be Christian Cage against Brian Cage.
But I don't think that this company should pay for the sins, for lack of a better phrase, of the other company, where it's like, they don't usually do this. Where it's like, okay, here's a rematch. They're just giving you a rematch, and it is two guys on the card, and I think this will ultimately lead to the further splitting of Team Taz. And the reason Christian Cage isn't in this match is because he's got another thing to do on this card, and he'll probably end up winning that thing.
We're gonna get to that next, yeah.
I'm excited about this match. It gives Adam Page an out for not fighting Kenny Omega yet, because he was number one forever. So it would have been
Right.
like, well, what about this guy? I like it. I like what they've done here. Solid booking all around, and I'm interested in the payoff.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is what rematches should be about. This is so logical. It's so simple. Because I know you're saying that the idea of, oh, we've seen these two wrestle before. We haven't really, because Cage attacked Adam Page before the match started. So what we saw was Brian Cage beating the shit out of an already beaten down guy for like 3 or 4 minutes. In this match, we're going to actually see a fresh Adam Page against a fresh Brian Cage. It's going to be a completely different match, even though the same two people were involved. It's not overly complicated, or it's not like the most in-depth story ever, but it's just, okay, this guy who was number one lost his number one status because this guy attacked him before the bell. Page decided to fight, like, valiantly fight on because he's a fighting babyface, and he ended up losing, which means that he's not fighting for the title this time, so wants to get revenge against the guy that cost him that opportunity.
Well, let me,
Seems simple.
just in case anybody gets the wrong impression, let me backtrack and
Tony
kind of
hates
further...
AEW.
No, not at all. Let me further explain what I mean by some of those points in case somebody gets the wrong conjecture from it. I am not like when we get with like Apollo Crews versus Big E, where it's like, oh my god, they've wrestled 1,000 times and I don't want to see it type of a thing, because we haven't seen these guys fight 20 times in a row. But the way I look at it is just more so, well, if I'm going to be super hyped about something, it's going to be either something that I haven't seen before, something that the storyline is really dictating that'll be really interesting, or that there is a particularly great gimmick, or something is on the line more so, or like there's some kind of a hook to it, other than that I like the two guys.
Because Taz is his son.
That's true. Hook is probably going to be ringside. But like, that's why I look at that and I go, okay, well, I like the two guys, and I'm sure it'll be good. But it's a slight step above when WWE has somebody bump into somebody backstage and then they go, and that match is announced later on for Monday Night Raw. And it's like, all right, well, you literally did the bare minimum beyond just literally announcing the match. And I kind of get the feeling that we're going to get that when it comes to the buy-in, because that's what the AEW tends to do is, hey, by the way, these two, that match for the sake of it kind of a thing. And it's got a little bit more than that, but it doesn't have that much more than that to where I can't feel like I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to see the next chapter in Page and Cage. I'm just sort of like, all right, well, it's going to be there. I hope it doesn't go on for like 40 minutes unless it's great. And if it's great, then I hope it goes on for like an hour, you know?
So this is something that needs to be addressed. Inherently, rematches are not a bad thing. They're not. It's when you're just putting minimal effort into the idea of the rematch. Here, they've booked it very well. They've made it clear. I just want another shot at you because you jumped me from behind. They didn't have that match, and then on Dark, have Page beat Cage, and then, oh, well, now we're 1-1. Let's do the match again and do the exact same match.
Yeah, that would be how WWE would do it.
Yeah, they've told the story here, and I think it's actually been a good ride.
Yeah.
And you still have Hook, you still have Ricky Starks, you
Well,
still have the entire Dark Order.
Starks probably wouldn't get involved in anything if he's got that neck problem.
Well, he's at least been showing up, so maybe he's feeling like he can cut promos. He'll still be there. He'll still add an element to the match.
Hopefully.
And I'd say that this obviously does have, it doesn't have like real, like clear divisive stakes to it, but it's the idea that, well, if Page wins, presumably he'll go near the top of the rankings again. So it does have some weight to it in that probably the winner of this match will be, in many people's eyes, the next person to take on Kenny Omega.
Which makes me want Brian Cage to win.
But I'm 100% certain that Page will win this match.
Yeah, so. Me too. I want Cage to win, though, because I don't want Page... I'm going to mix these names up the more than I'm saying it. I'm just like, wait a minute, which one did I say? I want Page to beat Omega at All Out.
Yeah.
So I
And I
don't
think
want
he will.
Paige to be the number one contender for the next 4 months, where they're just like, well, we'll come around to it, kind of a
But
thing.
they've made it clear he doesn't have to be the number one contender for the next 4 months. He can jump back up the rankings with this match. You still have the winner of the Casino Battle Royale.
Right.
You still have, potentially one of the two guys in the triple threat getting a shot. They do other things. This isn't WWE where they go, well, he won the number one contenders match, so in 3 weeks at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, it's Paige versus Omega. No, they'll tell the story the way they need to. This brand has earned more trust, and I know that sometimes you can be so much more forgiving towards them that it seems like you're just kissing ass, but in truth it's no, this brand hasn't hurt our feelings yet or insulted our intelligence, so we're still giving them the benefit of the doubt.
And I would say, just as a personal prediction, I don't think it's going to be Paige versus Omega at All Out.
Who do you think's going to end up being in that match?
Jericho.
Huh.
I think it's going to be Jericho versus Omega at All Out.
Is there any particular reason why?
I think the story it's too short of a story to have Paige become the champion. Yeah. I think you need Omega to be champion for longer. I think he needs to beat more people before he gets to Paige, because then Paige can then be seen as like the last hope. It's like, take this title off Omega.
I
mean,
think
that
there's still building to do with the Dark Order and stuff like that. The Jericho match.
I think it should be Full Gear.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have to win at All Out. To me, if they could do it ideally, that would make sense, because 2 years ago he could have won the title at All Out, that kind of a thing. But obviously, if it's not feeling right, then they can wait. But
I'll go a step further. The whole event is named Full Gear because of the stupid bit on BTE with Adam Page and him being full gear ready because Pac just showed up at the original press conference in his gear and he was full gear ready.
Yeah, to me, it's just the timing. Just the timing thing. Like, if All Out was the one towards the end of the year, then it would be All Out. But I just feel it won't have been long enough for a reign with Kenny Omega winning the title. Because if he is doing this belt collector gimmick, which obviously he's Impact World Champion, he's technically TNA World Champion as well, but that's
and he's AAA champion.
And he's AAA champion, although he might lose that soon to Andrade, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And now he's AEW champion. I kind of feel like he needs. It sounds weird. I think he needs another belt before he loses this one, because then he can go into like a big downward spiral, losing loads of belts left and right. But yeah, I just don't feel like the timing's right yet for Paige to win it. I feel like Paige needs to be held back a little bit. Ideally, I would do something, and maybe it's not Jericho, but I would do some sort of situation in the build-up towards All Out where it's Paige versus that person in the number one contenders match. Like, have them as number one and number two in the rankings, and then Omega is desperate to not fight Paige. He costs Paige the match, and then that means that he's going to take on this other opponent instead. He just about survives it, but then Paige is just waiting in the wings for the next opportunity. So you build up the idea that Omega is just so desperate to avoid facing Paige until he's like forced into doing it.
So ultimately, I'm going Paige.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to get around a lot of things, but I think that it makes more sense for Paige to win this and kind of, offset that than for him to lose twice to Cage. How about you guys?
I agree with Paige.
Yeah. Also, I know obviously we talk about the remap side of it and how it has been logical, but there's also the element that this may have been just forced by the fact that they can't put Ricky Starks on the card.
Yeah, supposedly Starks and Cage being Christian Cage. I'm not calling him Christian Cage. I'm calling him Christian. Supposedly it was Christian and Starks that was supposed to be the match on the card. Maybe even as an alternative to this one. But to be fair, also, I don't think it would have made sense for Paige to be in the Casino Battle Royale, because he is already the number one contender in so many ways. So I don't think that would have made a whole lot of sense. And I don't know what their plans originally were. Maybe some things are different. Maybe some things got switched around. Obviously, of course, it wasn't their plan that Ricky Starks would have gotten injured, because nobody ever plans for that. But I think that maybe more than anything, would have just changed not doing, I don't know, some other match that's on this card. Maybe that would have been in place of the Miro match, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I guess we're probably never gonna know, but let's talk about that Casino Battle Royale while we're at it. We don't know everybody because they always leave at least one empty space for just, everybody to speculate and go nuts. They do have Big Show's card just kind of hanging out there, but I don't think it's going to be Paul White. So who they've announced so far, at the very least, unless my list might not be up to date, I don't think that they've changed anything since I added this. They have Anthony Bowens, Brian Pillman Jr., Christian, Colt Cabana, Dustin Rhodes, Evil Uno, Griff Garrison, Isiah Cassidy, Jungle Boy, Lee Johnson, Marq Quen, Matt Hardy, Matt Sydal, Max Caster, Nick Comoroto, Penta, Powerhouse Hobbs, Preston Vance, aka 10 of Dark Order, QT Marshall, The Blade, no Butcher, funny enough, and TBA. So, of course, the first question is, who's TBA? Is it Daniel Bryan? Is it Samoa Joe? Is it some dude that's just on the roster already? Is it some indie guy that, it's Warhorse or something like that?
All right.
I don't think
It can't be Samoa Joe.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
It can't be anyone that was released from WWE. Their no compete clauses will be too short at this point.
Even Daniel Bryan?
Daniel Bryan is the
Daniel
one
Bryan doesn't
exception,
have a
but it
release.
won't be Daniel Bryan because they haven't announced it. And TNT or Turner in general are pretty much in a no camp of no, you have to announce these things if they're going to be, if this a big deal is signing, you announce it, you tell people that this is going to happen. Don't you dare do a shock one again.
But
Which is stupid, I gotta say. I understand why, but it takes the fun out of wrestling. Like, come on, you can have surprise every now and again.
see, I make the argument, though, I don't think that would apply here necessarily because this is a pay-per-view. So
that's
the
true.
ratings wouldn't be affected by it. And they know that they're getting a crowd out there. So if they were to try to make the argument of like, well, the pop is going to be something that's really big, and you're not missing out on the ratings because we're not going to have him pop up on AEW Dynamite beforehand. Although they technically could. Like, I mean, on Dynamite this week, they could do some kind of like right beforehand they start announcing something. And, I mean, it's Tuesday afternoon right now. We don't know what's happening on Wednesday, on Thursday, etc.
Well, it's not about the rating in that regard, then it's about the buy rate.
Right, because if it's a pay-per-view...
If you announce Daniel Bryan is going to be on the show in advance, you're going to get a bigger... Well, the idea, at least, is you're going to get a bigger buy rate than if he just shows up.
Yeah, but I mean, like, they might say tomorrow night, when AEW would have been airing, they might say, hey, tune into the Twitter account, we're going to make some kind of big announcement. And then the big announcement comes on Friday night on this special edition of Dynamite. We're going to reveal who that person is or something. You know what I mean? Like, they might do something like that. I don't think that they will. I think that they're going to leave this as a question mark sort of thing.
Well, they shouldn't do that if it isn't anyone other than Daniel Bryan, because everyone will just assume that it's Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
And so
look at the disappointment with Christian,
Yeah, I know, and that's bizarre to me. But I know obviously Christian's not like, he's not Daniel Bryan, he's not Brock Lesnar, he's not those sort of people. But it's a good name to sign. But I just feel like unless you do have Daniel Bryan, you should just leave that as a TBA, because then people can still claim to be disappointed that it's not Daniel Bryan, but then they've made that decision in their own heads. You can't blame AEW for getting their hopes up.
Yeah.
People have just gone, oh, I just assumed it's Daniel Bryan because he's not signed to everyone. But well, they didn't give you any indication it was Daniel Bryan. He said, oh yeah, but I'm mad anyway. Then they can just be mad and cry about it. I think that it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be Paul White either.
No, me neither.
Literally, there's probably plenty of people in the independent circuit that they could have like in the pipeline that they're ready to bring in.
It could be Andrade, right?
It could be Andrade if they've signed it.
Andrade.
And that'd be a big standout moment.
Could it be Mojo Rawley? I mean, I doubt that they would be, but is he?
90 day,
Hold on.
Is he still in the 90 days?
Yeah, and also, why would you?
Right. I'm thinking about literally any of the options, because I'm thinking, of course, people are going to be disappointed if it's not somebody like a Daniel Bryan, but man, would they really be disappointed if it was Mojo Rawley?
Okay, because I was gonna say, like, is that something you want to see, Mojo Rawley in the Casino Battle Royale?
To be fair, I am interested to see what he does when he's outside of WWE. I don't think it's going to be this, though.
I mean, do you think he's going to get high, or do you think he's going to stay high?
Yeah. He should pick up that T-shirt.
I'll say that I do think it will be Paul White, because this is the perfect. It's a battle royal, It's the perfect match for Paul White to just be a giant, get eliminated by Comoroto or somebody like that, and he did his little bit. He got to wrestle. The fans got to see him perform. If it is somebody like a Daniel Bryan, I mean, that's just a game changer. Like, a Daniel Bryan is a game changer. But speaking of game changer, another name a lot of people have talked about is Nick Gage. And none of us here are like deathmatch people, but Nick Gage has got a lot of press since the Dark Side of the Ring episode. And there's a contingency of people that will absolutely lose their fucking minds if it's Nick Gage. So that's an option for him.
Yeah, they've been building up the idea of him. He's going to be facing Moxley soon, isn't he?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so he does have some ties to AEW in that regard. I mean, you could also talk about the fact that there's been a fairly sizable contingent of New Japan wrestlers turning up on a darkened AEW recently as well. So if any of them are hanging around in the country, or they can pick up someone from New Japan Strong, then that could be someone that fills
Leo
in.
Rush. That'd be good.
Leo Rush is available. I mean, you could look no further than the actual champion of Strong at the moment, Tom Lawler.
Tom Lawler's so good.
Yeah, he could get into that as well. Could obviously Rocky Romero just appeared on Dark Elevation, so I don't imagine that he'd be like the surprise one going in, because he's already appeared at this point, so it seems unlikely. Kojima's appearing on Impact, isn't he, soon?
Yeah, so he's in the States.
Yeah, so Kojima could be in it as well. And obviously, if they still have that relationship going with Impact as well, there could be anybody from Impact appearing as well. It's the beauty of AEW's more open door policy, is that basically anybody could turn up, and we don't have to expect them to be permanently signed or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, somebody pops up in NXT in the crowd, and we know that they're signed, unless it's Liger or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, and when you look at a list like this, I would assume that it probably would be down to a handful of names. Like, I am not anticipating Marq Quen wins this match, or Colt Cabana wins it, or Matt Sydal wins it. Anybody could, because AEW has shown that they can take somebody who is not on the same level, give them a chance, have them lose, and that's just like, well, you had a shot. It's something different. So I could see it being somebody, even potentially like an Evil Uno, but I'm kind of going down to, it's Penta, Christian, Jungle Boy, or the Mystery Person.
They're probably the safest bets. I would go. I mean, Christian, this is an opportunity to just get into the world title picture.
Yep.
Pretty early on. But I kind of like the story they're telling with him essentially going through the grind, pretty much. Like, trying to shake off the ring rust, trying to like go toe to toe with some of AEW's better mid card wrestlers and stuff like that, proving himself, and then eventually earning a title shot more than, it's not necessarily being handed one, because you have to go through 20 other people, but it's still a battle royal. It's still more of an element of chance than it is about skill and like earning your way through. Penta is interesting because him and Kenny Omega have had some great matches in the past. Obviously, I know a lot of people would probably prefer it with Phoenix, but we have seen Phoenix versus Omega already, so I think it'd be worth giving Penta an opportunity as well.
Plus, Phoenix is injured, so that's why he's not in the match, for anybody who's wondering.
Jungle Boy is an interesting one, because Jungle Boy needs to win one of these matches eventually. But the longer you build up that anticipation, the more it's going to feel like a big moment when he does win. But they're in front of a crowd, having Tarzan Boy play if he gets a victory, would probably send the crowd a bit crazy, because he's the perennial underdog. Like, if he doesn't win this match, he's going to be in the final four, because he's always like the hope guy. So it's a guy like, eventually he's got to win this one, but maybe it's not tonight. Maybe it will be. That's the exciting part of having Jungle Boy involved in these contests. And the mystery guy is always it's always an option depending on how big a name the mystery guy is coming in. But they've shown in the past that even if it is someone who's debuting, he doesn't necessarily need to win it. So yeah, if I gun to my head, I would probably go Christian is the safest one. But if I'm going personally, I would go Jungle Boy. I think it's time to give him some. He's not going to win the world title, but to give him that match would be an interesting way of going about things.
Gun to my head, I'm going Christian. I think Christian getting the shot at Fighter Fest is a good hook for a television special or potentially even a Fight TV free special. Remember, they didn't do those last year, but we don't know if that was because of COVID or not. I think maybe even the first episode of Rampage. Like you've got some stuff to build up here. So Christian getting a world title shot is a major deal that you can anchor a show around. Outside of Christian, I think Jungle Boy would be awesome. The Tarzan boy, he does deserve a big match with Kenny Omega. And then there's, TBA. And if it's the right kind of people, you never know. Maybe they do have a Brian or a Davey Richards, Eddie Edwards, Tom Lawler against Omega would be good.
Could be Rich Swann.
Yeah, not so much, pal.
It would be interesting, though.
It would be interesting, but I think that Impact failed to get him to a level where it would have been interesting to see Rich Swann against Kenny Omega. So if he needs to leave Impact to do that, then I think it's more of a slight on what Impact has done.
I mean, it's an option, though. Like, they could do the whole, like, oh my god, that's Rich Swann from Impact, and he tries to win the AEW championship to offset that he lost that. I don't think at all that it's happening. I don't even think that there's more than like a 10% chance of that, but something to pop in my mind.
Well, to be fair, that match was both for the AEW and the TNA titles, so he has already had a shot at the AEW World Championship and lost. So, don't want to run. I just don't think nobody believes Rich Swann could ever, like, I mean, most people were probably looking for you Impact World Champion, but then just like, and I don't want to be disrespectful, but like, it doesn't really say too much about your World Championship when Rich Swann is your World Champion.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, I don't think anybody's going to think that almost anybody's going to beat Kenny Omega unless it's a name like a Daniel Bryan. And of course, if TBA is Daniel Bryan's winning this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But it feels a bit, that'll be super rushed, I feel, to have, even if you do have him signed up, I wouldn't put him in this match. I'd just have him turn up at the end of the night after Omega's retained the title or whatever and stare him down. I feel that's a bigger moment than him winning this Battle Royal.
I could see them doing a type of thing, though, if he's not signed, to be like, let's get the match, and maybe he'll sign in the future or something. For the record, I don't think it's going to be Daniel Bryan.
No.
I think that Christian Cage is going to win this. And if not, I think that we're all kind of in the same boat of that there's a strong chance it might be Jungle Boy. And I could see Jungle Boy getting the shot, having everybody happy. And then, of course, he fails to win the championship, and everybody just goes like, you almost got it, kid. And he could still be the underdog going forward, but now he's proven that he has taken more steps forward, kind of a thing.
I think, like, guns to my head, if I was ranking them, I'd say Cage is most likely. Then I'd probably go Penta, then Jungle Boy, and then TBA, and then everyone else.
And what's your final pick, Rob?
I would say Christian, and the only other runner-up I can think of that's actually announced is Jungle Boy.
So we're talking a lot about Jungle Boy. Maybe that's a nickname that you've been given, and if it is, you might need some of these kind of precision-engineered tools to take care of your family jewels and not be a Jungle Boy down there. And that's why we're going to talk about our sponsor for this episode. Support for Smark Moment is brought to you by Manscaped. That's the whole point of this whole plug and everything that we're talking about here. We've talked about this before, but just to fill you in case you're brand new to the podcast, Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world. They provide a whole bunch of different products for different things like shavers and grooming kits and everything that goes along that kind of spectrum. The Lawnmower 4.0 being one of them that I have tried out, and that we've got a couple of other things here. My fiance picked up the nail kit, the grooming kit that's got the little pair of scissors to it and like the nail trimmers and everything like that. I checked out the box yesterday or the day before. I'm like, what, this is cool. This looks good. And of course, if you want to take part of this and you want to join in on the fun, you want to help out not only Manscaped and Smark Out Moment and yourself, you can take advantage of the promo code that we've got going on here, Smark, just like the website, SMARK. And if you do that over on manscaped.com, you will get 20% off and free worldwide shipping for all of the different products that they've got there. Any other advancements? Are you guys trying any of their products or anything you want to toss out there for anybody who's like, I'm on the fence about the ball toner or something?
We'll always say the ball toner is great. All of the tools they give you in the perfect package, which you can buy using the code SMARK, are great. The nail kit I also have. Use it once every other week. I think it's one of the best nail clippers I've ever used. That's not me being a shill. I genuinely love the nail clipper there, and everything just seems to work so perfectly for the job it's designed to do. And as always, thumbs up all around from me on Manscaped.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it gives you a nice, like, comprehensive selection, and it gives you all the stuff you need to be just well groomed in general. I know in some way that the idea of male grooming is kind of, for some people it's a fad, some people it's more of like just an overall lifestyle choice. But I feel like we could all do with a little bit more of making ourselves just look good, feel good, all of that other stuff. And Manscaped is a great way of just making yourself just feel and look better, feel better, look better, all that great stuff. Like the ball tone stuff's great, the crop preserver, the ball deodorant. It's like, you want to smell nice down there as well. You put it under your arms. Why don't you want to smell nice down there as well? I'm sure the person that's going to be more proximate to that would appreciate that side of it as well.
More approximate. Such a proper way of saying it.
Listen, you may not be down there, but someone else might be at some point, and they don't want to have like the musty sweat in their face and stuff like that, do they?
Look, just because Game of Thrones was popular a couple of years ago and everybody decided to grow a giant beard and be all gross and Viking-like doesn't mean you need to have the same amount of coverage down there. So.
And let's be real, summer is coming. You don't want to be sitting with swamp balls. Manscaped is the perfect company to help you combat all of the grossness that summer brings along when it comes to down there health and overall cleanliness.
Yeah. And to extend the Jungle Boy reference a little bit more, if you don't want to be in a situation where you're going, when you need a ball.
I was going to go with some kind of a Swamp Thing joke instead, but we'll go in the Tarzan direction.
Going more the Tarzan approach there. But, Manscaped's skin-safe technology makes sure you're not ever in that very precarious situation.
Yeah, so definitely check that out. Browse their website, see if there's anything you're interested in picking up. And when you go ahead and you are in that checkout cart sort of situation, make sure you put in that code SMARK, SMARK, get your free shipping, get your 20% off, and get whatever it is that you're ordering over on manscaped.com. We want to thank Manscaped for sponsoring this, and we want to thank you for taking part of this, just like your balls will thank you. So moving on here, we talked about the Casino Battle Royale. We've talked about most of the matches, but we do still have the Anthony Ogogo versus Cody Rhodes match, which will be pretty interesting because we haven't seen Anthony Ogogo in a real match. It's pretty much just been squashes. Wow. Why did I add a T to that? Squashes, where he's,
a sweaty crotch approach there. That's
Sasquatch. That's why I got that on my mind. Ogogo's just pretty much punched people, and the same thing could happen here. He could just kind of squatch, as I said, Cody Rhodes, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I actually think Cody Rhodes is going to win this.
This is weird. This is weird because, like, I've been pretty positive about the whole thing so far, and then we get to this match, And Rob, you're in the same boat of us in the fact that Anthony Ogogo's not a heel.
So this is the issue with this match. Cody Rhodes came out on television and cut a promo about everything going on in America and decided now is the time that I'm going to take my father's alias and for one night be the American dream. On the surface, there's nothing wrong with what he said from a wrestling context. However, you've chosen what may be the most divisive time frame in all of our country's existence to be like, go America. And I'm of the opinion that he grew up super patriotic, Dusty's kid, all that. You can't, he shouldn't be, his experience shouldn't be invalidated. And yeah, he loves America. I get that. But man, if you were looking to babyface Ogogo, you did it tenfold. Because not only did you give people an excuse to boo you because you're like, yeah, and I'm gonna have a biracial baby in Georgia, where all these segregation things happened. Anthony Ogogo goes on Twitter and is like, yeah, by the way, we have healthcare because we care about people.
Yeah.
Suck it. Hey, look, I get it. Bret Hart did the same thing in 97. However, I think America was more united in 97, and that's why it worked the way it was supposed to, and people booed Bret Hart in States. It ain't working like that now. Even Americans aren't too hot on America. So Ogogo's the babyface, and when he punches Cody Rhodes with the American flag on him in the gut and Cody doubles over, Daly's place might pop.
Well, it is Double or Nothing.
Okay, Tony, thank you.
I had to.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just say that, like, this isn't the 1980s anymore. This isn't Hulk Hogan doing the rah, taking down the Iraqi sympathizer, Sergeant Slaughter, with an American flag waving over the top of his head. This is a period of history where there's a lot of people out there, and I don't necessarily think it's going to be all the people within Daly's place or whatever, but there's a strong contingent of people, and I'm among them in the British side of things as well, that aren't really that super patriotic anymore, and are actually starting to question this stuff a little bit more, and don't just go, rah, America's great just because they happen to be born in the country.
Right.
Like, you actually have to see evidence to say, like, oh, we did a good thing there. And I think there's precious few opportunities for a lot of Americans and British people in more recent memory to feel that way. And when I see this kind of approach to booking, it just feels very archaic. It feels very passé at this point to go with the evil foreigner approach, especially when that foreigner is someone who represents my country. And again, I'm not saying that I'm super patriotic or anything like that, but I don't feel like we're the quote unquote evil foreigners that you used to get. We're not. It's not like we're at war with America. In fact, we're probably as close a friend to America as any other country is. So it's like, it feels weird that that's the approach they're going to take. And yeah, I don't know what Cody was thinking really with this approach. Like I say, his promo that he gave was very passionate, and I think Rob said it in the past as well, that you could tell that he believed every word that he said. But the fact that he believed every word that he said makes me worried about him, and it makes me feel like maybe I'm backing the wrong horse by thinking that he was good. Not such good or anything like that, because this is the first time where I've actually gone through the AEW cycle and looked at Cody in full. I'm kind of glad that he's not in the world title picture, because I just feel like he should be out. It's better off with him out of it, because he seems a bit up himself almost, or he feels like he's the guy that's defending America in this entire feud, when realistically the feud should just be about, oh, this guy's being trained by QT. This guy's being trained by QT Marshall. I beat QT Marshall a couple of weeks ago. This guy punched me out and laid a British flag over top of me. I'm pissed. I want to face him and beat him in his first real match. That's really the only story you need to tell. But he's added this whole new super divisive nationality layer over the top of it. And in the meantime, when you see Ogogo tweet out all of the great stuff that he tweets, and the fact that his story is that he was a guy that was forced out of boxing due to the fact that he suffered a a punch which caused blindness to him, which means that he can't box anymore because of the damage that it could potentially do and could leave him permanently blind. The fact that he is as super babyface you can get as just a real person. Cody comes across as very I don't want to say he's like I don't want to
Entitled?
again criticize. Well, not as much entitled. It's just like I don't want to criticize too much, but he feels like he's a couple of steps away from starting to storm Washington Hill. You know, that kind of. I'm getting that kind of vibe from him.
So we know that Cody is obsessed with the history of wrestling. We've talked a lot on this podcast about it being like, okay, cool, we get it. You're doing the, TV title because NWA, and you did the Sean Spears has the glove because the Horseman and all that. Are we playing the long game here? And I'm going to try to see the bright side in Cody. Is he going for a reverse Bret Hart, where it's the American doing the Yankee Doodle Dandy, aren't we so great? And then it's like people turn on him, and then he goes, "Oh well, screw you then," and that's how we get him to turn heel. Because right now, everything Cody's done in this brand, even the stuff I liked, like MJF a year ago, all the things that he's done seem like you did the stupid thing where you said you can't challenge for the world title, and now you're just constantly
Filling a gap.
Pardon the praise, but jerking yourself off to the NWA fantasy that you have, and I'd rather him be involved in just regular storylines, because every time this guy pulls something out now, it's like, here's this thing that so clearly has ties to this thing that my dad did or that my dad was loosely associated with. And I get it, but I still want to see the Cody story, man. Like, I feel like we were robbed of the Cody Rhodes story. And he has a good chance to tell it now. And right now, the Cody Rhodes story feels like I just want to do the things that my dad did.
I think that's it, though.
What?
I think that's it. So that, like, you mentioned, like, the Bret Hart thing, that wasn't a Dusty thing, nor was it when he was a kid in that, like, WCW, NWA type of era, so I don't think he's going in that direction. I think he legitimately wants to be the super American babyface for this, and that's why I think he's going with the American Dream thing. I think it's flat out, like, it's face value, exactly what it's supposed to be, and it's just a little, I wouldn't say tone deaf, but, like, it's not of this era.
It's old-fashioned.
Yeah, so just because you really, really like something from the past doesn't mean that when you bring it back, it's going to be nostalgic for everybody else. And, there's certain people that collect vinyl. And then you get somebody like me who I'm like, yeah, I got rid of all my CDs. Like, it's just kind of...
In fairness, though, you do still have a Sony Walkman and you won't go over to Spotify.
I do still have a Sony Walkman because it's great. And not a Walkman like the CD Walkman type of thing. Pretty much interesting. It's an MP3 player. But, like, I think that Cody wants to be the super American person for that, and they thought that Ogogo could pull that off, and I don't think it's working all that well, but actually, I didn't think we'd get this much discussion out of this match.
It's just weird because, like, I'm just picturing in my head now the idea of, like, Cody's entrance. So Cody always has nice elaborate entrance of the night anyway, but him coming out in red, white, and blue trunks or tights, and, like, emblazing his stupid tattoo on his neck or anything like that, and like all the like fireworks going off and a big American flag furling out on the side of Daily's place, whatever. I'm just gonna look at him, and just go, what an unbelievable twat. Just like
That being said, and even the naysayers will start chanting USA because it's just like this. It's this thing.
And it's a different culture, and it's a culture that I'm not familiar with, and I find a little bit sick. And that's down to me just being a very apathetic British person that's never ever bought into this super patriotism malarkey. I mean, I support my country when we play like sports and stuff like that, but then again, I don't have any other need to support any other country. But it's just But I'm not like super like just rah-rah. It's just the fact that I was born in this country means that I should defend it with my life almost the time, or say how great we are every single time. And any time that anyone brings up anything negative towards this country, I should be on the front line saying like, no, we have this, and this. I just go, yeah, okay. That's like my attitude, a very laissez-faire attitude to everything, which is pretty much my attitude towards life in general. And Cody clearly doesn't subscribe to that philosophy, and that's fine, but it doesn't endear him to me. So, and to be fair, we've talked about this a lot. We haven't actually talked about what the mechanics of this match is going to be, which is the fact that Ogogo is like, we don't know how ready he is for a match of this magnitude. And Cody's job in this match is to run it, essentially, because he has to idiot-proof this to make sure that Ogogo doesn't. I don't think he's going to disgrace himself, but you're in a card with a lot of really stacked matches. If you don't want this match to stick out like a sore thumb, then you're going to have to go a little bit extra to put some work in to make it look good. So it'd be interesting to see how Cody carries it.
I'm interested to see it. I don't think it's going to be great, but we haven't seen much from Ogogo.
To go along. I'm
Me neither.
expecting this to be Ogogo punches Cody. Cody gets up and he full on Drago. You know, just like if he dies, he dies. I fully expect Cody Rhodes to get his ass kicked because Cody Rhodes just seems like he enjoys telling the story rather than even building up his own legacy. I think Cody really believes I had my run. You know, it wasn't what I wanted, but I had my run. And now I'm just going to tell these stories. And I don't need to win.
Do you think Ogogo's winning?
I think Ogogo wins, yeah.
I think there's a good chance Cody wins just because he has that American Dream thing going on.
Yeah, I'm backing Cody to win this one just because I think that he thinks that he's the babyface in this situation, like the total all-American babyface in this one, or he is transitioning into that heel role that Rob alluded to, and if so, I think he still needs to win either way for that to be effective.
I think it'll be fun, you know?
Let's move over to a match that I pretty much would guarantee would be fun. The Stadium Stampede match.
Woo!
Pinnacle and Inner Circle, they went to war at Blood and Guts. They had a crappy finish to it, but it's neither here nor there. And now, if the Inner Circle loses, they have to disband, which means one of two things. Either they go with the thing that they've done before in AEW, where they give you this kind of stipulation and then they actually follow through with it. You know, SCU, no longer a tag team. Cody Rhodes hasn't had a title match. Or the reason behind this match being the way that it is Pinnacle loses nothing if they lose. So they could lose, and then you get Inner Circle 1, Pinnacle 1, and you do a third match. But if that's the case, what's the third match? They would have had two gimmicks like this already.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It is an interesting one because I could realistically see either team winning because they have done the Blood and Guts match beforehand. I feel like it's a bit backwards if they were to go 1-on-1 and then you have to have another match to sort it out, because then they're either going to have to come up with a completely unique match type, which we haven't seen before. The only potential one they have in the wheelhouse that they could pull out is a lights out match, but that doesn't count either way. So it would basically, they could just argue, oh, even though we lost that match, it doesn't count because it's not in the record books. But so I don't know any other gimmick match they've come up with yet that could really satiate that or go above those two. I think if you were to have this match and then would have done the Blood and Guts match, it would make a bit more sense. But yeah, I'm interested to see, just because, at least from what they've given us the indication, this isn't going to be like the other Stadium Stampede match, because it needs to be more serious than that. Because that was a bit, it was a ton of fun, but it was super goofy in places. Like, you can't have a spot where Matt Hardy changes multiple gimmicks underwater or anything like that. You need it to be. I think you can have a little bit of humor in it, but it needs to be mostly straight laced, and it needs to be like very physical between the two teams, because that's what we've gotten used to. And anything else outside of that would feel like a bit of making it a bit redundant. And especially if you've got a stipulation that the Inner Circle losers have to disband, it needs to be taken seriously. I think the Pinnacle should win this one. If I was the one who was making the booking decisions, just because I feel like the people who are all part of the Inner Circle can do things separately now without having to be part of the same crew. And it says that the Inner Circle has to disband. It doesn't mean they can't still like be friends or work together in places. It just means that they won't be the Inner Circle anymore. And I think Jericho can do. I mean, Jericho's leaving to go on tour for a while. Sammy Guevara can start building himself up in the mid card. He might be a good person to eventually beat Miedo for the title. Santana Ortiz should be tag champions at some point. And Jake Hager's Jake Hager, and so who cares? But that's like that's my approach to it. I feel like there's more. It makes the Pinnacle seem even more imperious if they beat them twice in a row.
I'm kind of rooting for I was going to call it something else. Imperium, yeah. I'm kind of rooting for Pinnacle to win, just to kind of make it seem like, oh man, of course they won, like that kind of thing.
Well, if Imperium was in this match, I think it'd be a lot of fun, because Walter just chopping people up and down a football field. That's my cup of tea. But I think I'm going to go with Inner Circle winning here, because I think it's too on the nose. And Jericho's weird, man. Jericho will go, well, you thought we were going to split up, didn't you? And that's why we didn't. Haha. I gotcha. I feel like that's very much who Chris Jericho is right now. So ultimately, I'm going to say Inner Circle wins, even though I don't think they should. I think Pinnacle should crush them here, move on to capturing all the belts, and then have a good 6 months to a year where they just reign on top of the company. Problem with that is you have the super elite doing the same thing, and you don't want the company to feel like they're falling into a hole of, oh, well, evil faction controls everything. I like Pinnacle. I think they look great together. They're getting something out of Sean Spears, which is a much needed element. They're getting something more out of Wardlow. They've put FTR with MJF. I think everything the Pinnacle does is great. I want this to be a serious match. I don't want the campy bullshit. Listen, that was fun at the start of the pandemic. I think the Money in the Bank match was fun last year.
Ugh.
But it's a different time, and you got to do something more serious and more really in your face, because you're coming off of a bloodbath. And how do you justify going camp? And you can't, because MJF already said, hey, we're not going to go camp. So I think this match should be very good, but I'm worried about the execution, especially with the live crowd attendance.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to do this with the live crowd, but I'm looking forward to this match more than almost anything else on the card. If not, yeah, I think this probably is the match that I'm looking forward to the most. So I'm going to be happy either way. I am leaning more towards Pinnacle winning. On paper, I have Inner Circle winning, just because it's like, well, you know, of course, if they lose, then they disband, so maybe they just keep it dragging out even more. But, you know, you're saying that you think that that's the obvious thing, is that the Inner Circle loses. I think that the more obvious thing would be that they wouldn't. And then it would be like, oh, look at that, 2-0 kind of a thing. So I'm gonna say Pinnacle.
Yeah, I'll stick with the Pinnacle as well.
And Rob, you're saying Inner Circle?
I am saying Inner Circle, even though, like, I would prefer Pinnacle, but my mind is saying Inner Circle.
So I think we're all going to be in agreement in the next one. Dr. Britt Baker's beating Hikaru Shida, winning that AEW Women's World Championship, right?
And the crowd goes wild. Britt Baker deserves this. it has been way too long of a journey. I feel like I've been saying she needs to be champion for a year now. Give her the belt. That's it. Give her the belt.
Shida's
Yeah.
champion for a year at this point, right?
Yes. That's that
So
Mark
she's
on
held
the
it long
belt.
enough. It's not like they're gonna be like, oh, she was just getting started or something. Like, it's worth the time at this point that she can lose, and Baker's the best person to beat her.
Okay, I'm gonna get heat on this.
I was waiting for it.
This is really disappointing because, and it's not Britt Baker's fault. I'm gonna put it out there now. It's not Britt Baker's fault. But this crowd is going to go crazy when Britt Baker wins, and that's not what should be happening. Because Britt Baker is a heel. She's a heel, and she should be booed, and people should not want her to win this match. I know there's this whole thing of like, we're smart. I'd say smarter. We're smart fans, so we're saying this because we know that Britt Baker's like one of the top people in the women's division, so she should be champion. But Hikaru Shida should be perceived as this huge battling babyface with a year-long title reign, and we should be. I don't say we should be desperate for her to hold on to the title or stuff like that, but we should feel a bit more connected to her. And I just think that her title reign, it will end, there's no way in hell that she's retaining this championship at Double or Nothing. But when it does end, it's going to feel like it was just a year wasted.
Because it all happened in COVID.
Not so much that it all happened in COVID, it's because they didn't put any effort into her as champion. And this is a rare thing where I'm going to talk about AEW's booking being terrible. They booked her terribly as champion. She's been champion for a year, but it's like John Moxley or Dean Ambrose's reign as United States champion all those years ago. She defended it like half a dozen times, and her feuds never got any spotlight at all. Like who did she defend it against? Penelope Ford. That was a nothing feud. Nyla Rose. Yeah,
like a one-off.
Yeah, that was a one-off thing. Nyla Rose. That was just a playback of her winning the championship in the first place. They had that the tournament with Rhea Mitsunami winning. It was just like, oh, that was
Anna Jay, and then Thunder Rosa, which the whole deal there was, hey, look, it's Thunder Rosa. You don't know her yet, but you'll like her.
Yeah, exactly. It's never felt like, I mean, Abaddon as well and stuff like that, but Abaddon was never going to win the women's title. It's just it feels like it's never been about her in the women's division because, and I know people have been saying, oh, it's time to give Britt Baker the title. You've given Britt Baker fucking everything else. And again, it feels like I'm a bit criticizing Britt Baker, but she's the star of the women's division, and yet they just, again, maybe she should have gotten the title earlier, but in my mind, it shouldn't be the case that Britt Baker should have been champion earlier. It should have been, you should have focused on your actual champion. Hikaru Shida's great. She's fantastic in the ring. She's probably one of, if not the best women's worker they have. It's probably her and Serena Deeb, the top two women's workers in the entire company. Britt Baker's up there, definitely. And she definitely has more personality. But I think that it should be a case that she's been getting too much screen time that should have been going to Hikaru Shida. And I'm also of the opinion that a lot of people are obviously clamoring for this Britt Baker title reign. And part of me, and this is just the sadistic side of me, wants this to blow up in their faces. And this to be a Charlotte Flair title reign. Where she comes out every week, she cuts the same promo about how she's the best in the business. She hardly wrestles, and when she does wrestle, Reba interferes all the time. And I want people to get sick of it. And realistically, I want them to get sick of it because I want them to fucking boo Britt Baker because she's a heel, and that's what they should be doing. But I'm just not looking forward to that visual. I'm looking for. I mean, I think that Britt Baker should win the title, and again, I don't want to give the impression that I want anything else to happen, but I'm not looking forward to that visual of the crowd cheering everything that Britt Baker does in this match, and Hikaru Shida getting booed because I don't think Shida deserves that.
So here's the thing. I agree with every word that just came out of your mouth. You're 100%
Yep.
right. And I don't think Tony will deny it. I'm not going to deny it. You're absolutely right.
100%.
However, this brand, and really wrestling fans in general. This affects WWE as well, but specifically even more so for this brand. All they care about is the fact that they're smart and they're on the inside and they're gonna cheer Baker. So when I say the crowd will go wild, that's because I know what's gonna happen. I agree with you. I wish it was the other way around, but it's not, and that's why, not to veer off into WWE, I enjoy Charlotte Flair because Charlotte Flair right now works because people legitimately dislike her because they think that she gets handed everything.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to get the impression or give any sort of suggestion that I don't think Britt Baker should win this match. She should definitely win this match. And the reason why is because she's been positioned so well and she's been given a lot of screen time and she's become a very well-rounded character. The issue with that being is that it's so lopsided in her favour for this match that we're all left with the opinion like there's nobody. Like you probably pick out maybe one or two people in the entire people that've ever watched AEW that think that Hikaru Shida is winning this match, and she's been champion for a year. No one thinks she's winning this match. I know that's more of a kayfabe essence, but surely there'd be like even at this stage there should be like a 5% window that Hikaru Shida wins, and nobody. I wouldn't give her a 0.1% chance of winning this match. The only chance I'd have her winning this match is that Britt Baker gets injured during the match and they have to switch it.
You're right.
So that's and I think even they would do something where Britt Baker wins despite being injured and Britt Baker just vacates the title the next night or the next Dynamite instead, just to have the visual Britt Baker winning. Yeah, to me it's been too lopsided in the build in favor of Baker, and it means that you've got, you know how in certain matches you have the situation where you have a weak challenger going in. It's basically anyone that faces Roman Reigns at the moment. It's like they're a weak challenger because you have no faith they're going to win the title. And this is like the complete opposite, where you have a weak champion going into it, even though that champion has held the title for a year. It's really actually impressive feat that they managed to do that, to make your champion so, I'd say weak, but be positioned so badly against the challenger, despite her holding the title for an entire year.
I think that part of this was also the booking of, well, the Joshi aren't the Joshi great, and they are. But they relied too much on the wrong thing. And that being said, Britt Baker and Reba are the most WWE angle that this company has. But it's working, so maybe they just run with it for a little while and build somebody up to take the division in another direction.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm looking forward to Britt Baker's reign to a degree because they're forced then to build up a good babyface to take her on. Whether that's Thunder Rosa, whether that's Tai Conchi, whether that's Anna Jay when she comes back, they're gonna need to actually focus on building someone up to reach her level. Because they're probably not someone on the outside of Thunder Rosa, and they've already done that match quite a few times, so I don't think they want to play that back immediately. They're going to need to find someone to reach that level.
I agree. And this is the first step to that, but this is a necessary step. You know what I mean? We need a real, like, domestic, charismatic champion. No disrespect to Nyla. Nyla's great, but she's not as charismatic as Britt Baker.
Yeah. Above all else, you need to have the title on someone who's going to be featured every week. That's step one. Put your champion on TV all the time.
Because there, so many people are talking about other belts. Let's do a trios belt. Let's do a women's tag belt. Why? Establish the ones that you have now, and then worry about expanding.
Yeah, but yeah, I've already talked about this one too much. I probably stole the majority of the oxygen from this one. So
no, you're fine. Like, it's a good discussion to have, and it's something that, listen, this company knows they've had an issue with their women's division since day one. Even before the pandemic, people were like, "We don't like this division," you know.
yeah, I think this match will be really good. I think it'll be a very good match.
Let me get my oxygen back. No, I'm just kidding.
You can talk now as well, Tony, if you want.
Nah, Baker wins. I really don't have that much more to add.
And that's also why I didn't mind you saying so much, because I knew you had a lot to say, and I knew Tony didn't.
Yeah, it is what it is. We've talked about this leading up for months of this is where it is. So it's just happening now.
Times that we know that this was inevitable.
Right.
We knew this was going to be the result of it. It just yeah. As I said, it just annoys me that I just feel like they completely mishandled Shida's reign. So it just doesn't feel like she's held the title for a year going into it.
Another thing that's inevitable is our next match.
Oh yeah.
Kenny Omega is not dropping this title to Pac or Orange Cassidy. The match should be great because they're all talented, and you put three people in a match like this together, of course it's going to be fun. But there is no way in hell Omega drops that title, and that's okay. It's not like just because something's predictable it means that it's bad. It's just a matter of Kenny Omega's going to win, and it'll be a fun ride to get to that inevitable conclusion. But yeah, Kenny Omega's going to retain that championship.
Yeah, again, it is a predictable result, so you know that.
Do you think Cassidy does the match?
That's something one of the big question marks. I would say I hope he does, obviously, because I think it will add something. I think this is the first singles triple threat match in AEW history.
Yep.
So that's an interesting. That's very interesting dynamic, considering the fact that the last WWE pay-per-view had 2 triple threat matches on it, and that's definitely not the first time that's ever happened in their history. But I digress. But the one thing this match needs to achieve for me, beyond just being a great match, and I think that if these three all work together as well as they can do, it will be a great match, is that one hope spot where you just, for 1 second, you lose yourself into thinking that Orange Cassidy is going to pin Kenny Omega. If it achieves that 1 split second thought in your mind that he's going to win the title, then it's done everything it needs to do, in my mind. But yeah, Omega's going to retain.
I love Pac. And I think if Cassidy can't go, Pac and Omega will have a great match. They've proven that in the past. I'm sad that they didn't go full Cassidy here. I would have liked to see what they would have done with Cassidy versus Omega. And I think that ultimately they kind of tipped their hat like, hey, we have certain quality we need to keep, so you can't have the one-on-one match. And I would have liked to see them do it just to see what they could do.
I think that the triple threat match, both obviously it gives Pac an opportunity to fight for the world title, which I think someone of his caliber deserves to do, because I don't know how many more opportunities they would have had to have Omega defend the title up until whenever they plan on him dropping it. I think the reason of doing this is just the fact that you can do a triple threat match because you haven't done one before, so it's a bit of a novelty in that regard for AEW audiences at the very least. And I think it also adds the element of jeopardy in the fact that Kenny Omega doesn't have to be pinned to lose the title. So you could start doing things where you have Pac nearly beating Orange Cassidy, or Orange Cassidy nearly beating Pac, and you might feel like, oh, Kenny Omega's going to lose a title that way, and then he might have to just fight to win it back afterwards. So it's the idea of like maybe the triple threat in their mind adds a bit of jeopardy to it, even though everyone kind of knows that Kenny Omega's going to retain. Just adding that extra element to it may get people to think, oh, maybe he's dropping it for like a couple of weeks and then he's going to win it back afterwards, but not be pinned in the process. So, I mean, I like the fact that it's triple threat. It's something different. We don't see this. We haven't seen this very often with AEW, so I feel like it makes the match more appealing to me than just a one-on-one between either of these two guys.
Do you remember when he did the triple threat with Cody and Ibushi? And people in New Japan, and people bitched because it wasn't, oh, this is too WWE style.
I think they bitched because it was Cody.
I agree.
I don't think they bitched because it was a triple threat. I think if there's someone else, I mean, I know the idea that it is to WWE to do a triple threat match, but I think they'd bitch because it was Cody involved.
I agree.
Whereas I think with these two, I mean, this one, I think most people would agree that Pac is probably the third wheel in this one, because he's just there to be a really good worker, whereas Cassidy's there for the crowd, and Kenny Omega's there because obviously he's a champion and he's the guy that will retain the championship. But I feel like I feel like people aren't offended that Pac's in the match. It's not like they're. It's not like go, oh, like even though as you guys say, and I think you're more than entitled to have the opinions of the idea that Pac that not Kenny Omega versus Orange Cassidy would be more interesting because it's 1-on-1, and I think Cassidy has earned that sort of status because he is a big draw. He is someone that the crowd really get behind, especially if it is going to be a packed audience. They're going to go wild for his shtick, as you'd expect. But I think Pac being in it doesn't make the match worse. Just makes it different.
What if it was a Pac audience?
God damn it! I knew it. Fuck, man. Like,
God, that'd be a fucking ugly crowd.
Yeah, so we're all in agreement. Omega retains. The match will be fun.
I think he pins Cassidy if he does it. If he's in the match.
Yeah, they could always announce that the concussion is just taking him out of the mix, which I hope is not the case.
No, I hope he's fine. I know they've said about him being slightly rocked and stuff like that, but hopefully he's capable enough to go through this one. But I think if all things go as well as they can do, this could be a match of the year candidate.
It's definitely going to be different either way. And I really appreciate different. I'm sorry. Like, I'm burned out on the WWE style. Monday Night Raw had a great match between Woods and Riddle. That being said, I'm just burned out, and this feels like a breath of fresh air. So I'm excited to see what they do.
Well, like everything else that we've said here, we want to know your opinions. So drop a comment below. Tell us what you think is going to happen at Double or Nothing this weekend, and tell us your thoughts on our thoughts and everything else that we're talking about here. Any other last kind of call things you guys want to mention?
I think that this show will be headlined by the Stadium Stampede, but the world title match would be a nice surprise.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the actual order would be. I think Stadium Stampede makes the most sense to be the main event, but either way, I'm very much looking forward to this show. I think there isn't a match which, in at least to some degree, I'm not intrigued by. So
I'll throw this one out there. I'm looking forward to. At least we know that by Full Gear they'll be back on Saturday nights. I hope All Out is a return to Saturdays. I prefer Saturdays for this company than the Sunday night pay-per-views.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with that, especially from a UK perspective. But I'm fortunate in the fact that this coming Monday is a bank holiday in the UK, so I'll be able to watch it live, and I will be on the pay-per-view post show.
I will not be because post-show media scrums. So these two gentlemen will take you through the event, and it'll be great. And I'm looking forward to hearing what they have to say.
So that will, of course, happen after the pay-per-view. That's why it's post-show. That makes sense, right? If we could know what would happen ahead of time, then I would put spoilers up. So the game plan is the normal setup when it comes to that. Although the hot tags are not going to be normal here because WWE is going to have its SmackDown and then 205 Live like normal, but AEW is going to have Dynamite at 10 o'clock. We're not going to do the hot tags after Dynamite because that'll just be too late to get started with everything like that. So we're going to do the hot tags earlier in the day on Friday before SmackDown and 205 Live and Dynamite. So we're going to have less of the TV stuff to talk about, but we will talk about Adnan Virk and we will talk about anything else that's happening. So no updates for the pay-per-view unless we find out some kind of an update on like social media or something. And instead, if there is some kind of a big update, you will find it on smarkoutmoment.com. You'll find it on my stuff on eWrestling News and Bleacher Report. And of course, while you're checking everything out, make sure that you follow everything all over the place there. And follow me at Tony Mango on Facebook and Twitter and so on and so forth. Follow what these guys have going on as well. Rob?
Yeah, so I just mentioned, I'm going to be I'm not going to be on the post-show media scrum. Sean Ross Sapp will be there live in person. So you can follow everything going on at Fightful.com and check out Fightful Select for some scoops leading up to Double or Nothing. Check out WrestleZone for all the coverage they'll be doing. And follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. Callum?
Oh, sorry, got distracted there for a second. So yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. Check out smarkoutmoment.com, all the great articles on there. Power rankings is my weekly contribution, but make sure you're checking out every other stuff on there as well. Obviously, the thing to do if you're hankering for some like Ruthless Aggression, Late Attitude Era content is 2001 Wrestling Odyssey and the Paul Heyman SmackDown podcast over in the Smark archives, either on YouTube or through the podcast feeds. And yep, that's me.
That'll do us in for this. So, of course, you following us and you leaving your comments and you hitting that like button and doing anything that you can do is greatly appreciated, including just the fact that you were listening in. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you enjoy the next one as well. Hopefully you had a great day and you'll have a great tomorrow. And we will see you next time, everybody. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.